Before we start, we would like to say a huge thank you to our weekly giveaway sponsor, Ivant. For the next few weeks, we will be giving away spots in the OWASP DevSlop organization on the Ivant platform. Ivant is an application security learning platform that helps engineers build secure software and allow IT leaders to have greater visibility into the strengths of their teams. And we are live. Welcome on August 16, 2020 for the OWASP DevSlop show. I'm Nancy Gariche, one of your hosts for today, and I'm here with my lovely co-hosts, Nicole, Becher, and Tanya, Janca, also known as She Hacks Purple. Let me bring them on the stream. Hello, Tanya. Hello, Nicole.
Hi, guys.
Hello. So maybe before we start, we should introduce ourselves. I'm Nancy Gariche, like I said. Let's start with Nicole. Nicole.
Hi, everyone. Nicole Becher. I am a project leader for DevSlop, and yeah, I'm glad to be here. I got to work on my intro. That's what I'm learning. But
same.
I try to
do it really fast and then pass it on to you.
I have these ideas of sentences, and then I'm just like, so anyway, I'm very excited to be here. And Tanya, you sound great. Your mic is good.
Yeah, we switched out a mic and the preamp and all this other fancy pantsness. Can I do your intro?
Yeah.
Go ahead. Yes.
So, Nicole Becher was an amazing pen tester and is now the lead for a giant international enterprise company handling all of their security. She teaches at NYU as an adjunct professor. She does endless OWASP projects contributions, including being part of this project. And she's a badass.
All right. You know what? You win. I should just record that. That was great, Tanya.
Yeah, let's just record intros and let Tanya.
Yeah, maybe I should do Tanya's intro.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. Tanya Janca does everything ever in application security, including write books, do podcasts, give trainings, explain to people all the nuances of how to do everything in application security. And she is an endless resource of everything application security.
Thank you.
There's probably more that I'm missing.
I liked that. Awesome.
Thanks for all of that.
Thank you.
It's fantastic. I love it. We should reuse all this. Let's not put this to waste. Okay, I think it's time to meet our guest. But before we do that, I have a little clip.
Kubernetes is hard. Kubernetes, despite being open source, costs money. And Kubernetes won't save the world. Kubernetes won't cure cancer. And Kubernetes is not Jesus. So be mindful. Do the right choice. Think about it. And thank you. I'm Renata. Don't believe the motherfucking hype.
That was Renata ROCHA at the end of her critically acclaimed DevOps Days Toronto 2019 talk, Kubernetes, Don't Believe the Hype, just before the standing ovation the audience gave her. Today, she's our guest and will discuss the many misconceptions and fears regarding the implementation of a CI/CD solution. We'll talk about continuous integration, continuous delivery, how it's a cultural and not only a technical change, and why we need to stop worrying and learn to love automation. Welcome, Renata.
Hello, it's great to be here. Thank you so much for inviting me to your show. So we are here today to talk about this 4 magical letters, CI/CD. And as you've seen, I am very passionate about the topics that I talk about. Let's get started, right?
Your slides are here.
Okay, can you see my slides? Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, it's always like this, right? Can you see my screen? Am I muted? Every day.
Yeah, it's a good thing to check.
It's a great thing to chat about. Okay, so have you been to a tech event recently? I know, I don't mean recently because no one has been anywhere recently. I actually hope you don't have been anywhere recently. But the last time you went to a tech event, Think of it. How many CI/CD tools both did you see there? How many demos did you see about continuous integration, continuous deployment? Probably almost half of it. And the other half, what was it? Monitoring tools, right? Yeah. It seems like they got all the solutions that you need for your problems. Everything is solved. Anyway, this is Renata Gariche, the treasury of images, also called Ceci n'est pas un pipe. And I made my amazing joke, Ceci n'est pas un pipeline, because we are going to discuss the deception of CI/CD as a simple solution that relies on installing a piece of software to solve a much bigger issue that we have in our businesses, in our enterprises, and trusting on software, on just applying a one-size-fits-all solution instead of cultural changes. That's what we usually need to come to a state of CI/CD. Let's get started, okay? Qui suis-je? And I promise I'll start with the French. I don't have to subject you to my horrible French. My name is Renata Rocha. You say that as Ferreiro Rocher, not as in Mocha. I've heard that before. It's not nice. I'm a solutions architect at Slalom Build. I have been with Slalom for almost a year now. And I have been working with DevOps and Cloud for roughly 10 years and began my career as a sysadmin in the late 90s. That was a long time ago. I also like art, which means that I've drawn these slides myself. And I tried to go to art school before I began my career in technology. And that didn't quite work out very well. So the result of my failure in art school and my passion for technology is the result that you're seeing in these slides today. Amazing drawings, not quite, but at least the content is what you came here for. CI/CD with cute drawings from someone who doesn't know how to draw, right? Anyway, what is this? Going back to Magritte's The Treasury of Images, the Ceci n'est pas un pipe. It's not a pipe. It is a drawing of a pipe, right? It's where I borrowed the inspiration for this talk. CI/CD is not a pipeline. I'm not going to show you a demo of a CI/CD solution, not what works on my machine. That would be a pipe. We are going to dive into broader concepts, into ideas, and why these ideas are what matters to you, to your company, to your team, and why it's important for me, to you, to change the minds of those who work with us, and how we achieve a state of CI/CD before we get into setting up a pipeline, choosing the tools, and getting into that code, that demo that people usually do. You can find demos online, 1,000 demos from different tools, different companies. You can go to the tech event. Well, back in the day you could, and you could see them working, the tools working. But we usually find out that it doesn't come so easily if we don't do the cultural part first. First things first, CI/CD 101. What is it? CI stands for continuous integration. Okay, and CD, it's when it starts to get tricky. It can mean either continuous delivery or continuous deployment. And we can see that the fact that the CD part can mean two things is already kind of a problem, because if people don't agree with what it means, even in the name, there is already some things you have to go around. Integration is the more common thing is the easy part, is when you integrate your code into a repository in an automated fashion. And that is usually the first step for an automated system, automated processes. The continuous deployment is, technically speaking, keeping your application deployable at any point or automatically, and releasing it to a test or production environment. The continuous delivery would be the next step in the process, is a more advanced version of that, is keeping your code base, entire code base deployable at any point. Not only making sure that your application passes automated tests, but also the configuration necessary to push it into production at any point. Okay. Those concepts, they are like the technical terms of CI/CD. And like I said, it's deciding which parts you can implement now or later are the tricky ones. Now, here's where it starts to get difficult. There are lots of misconceptions of what would be CI/CD. Shell scripts are not CI/CD. Okay, if I love shell scripts, I'm sorry, but I do. I have a background as a sysadmin from the 90s, and I wrote lots of shell scripts. They work locally. I'm the only one who understands what they are doing. And that, my friend, is the reason why they are not CI/CD, because they run from my machine, and I'm the only one who understands what they are doing. That is not CI/CD. Shell scripts are fun, but they are not CI/CD. Cloud migrations. I know this may sound awkward, but people are like, but it's in the cloud, so is it not CI/CD? Well, no. One thing doesn't mean the other, okay? You can have a fully on-prem solutions with CI/CD, and you can also have a fully cloud-based solution without CI/CD. Those things, they don't depend on each other. Of course, it would be very cool if you had a full cloud solution with CI/CD, but they are independent. I'm a fan of cloud migrations, don't get me wrong. It's basically my bread and butter. It's what I do. But you can migrate to the cloud without implementing any sort of CI/CD solution. And I absolutely cannot resist giving a talk without making a Kubernetes joke. So I'm also going to say that copying your YAML files into Kubernetes cluster is not CI/CD. If you have a Kubernetes cluster because it is a cool solution, it's a hype solution, but you go and copy your YAML files into it, that's totally not CI/CD. We often get asked, okay, why do I want this? And the responses are usually along the lines of velocity, testability, control. Yeah, words. What do these words mean, right? Because they just sound very cool. Let's try to get into the gist of it. We have been deploying in a non-automated fashion forever, and it works, right? Not really. Everybody's afraid of the, oh my God, Friday deploy to prod. No one likes it because things might fail. And people don't like change requests, and people fear rollbacks. So honestly, it's not really working. And we need something different. By automating the whole release processes from beginning to end, you're going to gain velocity, you're going to gain testability, and my favorite thing, control. Who doesn't like control, right? If you can control the whole pipeline, yeah, things are going to be much better. Instead of releasing a big chunk of code, which may contain a bug that you are not seeing, you are now going to release smaller pieces, and the test may be able to catch that piece before it goes into release, and then that piece will fail. And your system is going to be more stable and reliable and faster and harder and stronger, right? That's the whole idea. And that's why you want it. You don't want to be afraid of deploying to prod on Friday anymore. Deploy to prod on Friday is going to be as easy as deploying to prod on Monday morning or any other day. It's just another easy step that you do anytime. You want that. You want to go to bed on Friday evening nice and sound. So, but everyone wants to talk about the tools because it's always about the cool software that people are using and everyone installing. And I find this very interesting that in developers, they are very into frameworks, the name of the languages, but in DevOps, we are obsessed with brand name tools. So I have to talk about the tools, right? So let's do it. Jenkins, Circle CI, GitHub Actions, which is quite amazing. They are introducing new features every day. If you haven't played with GitHub Actions, you should. It's awesome. GitLab, Argo. Argo is for Kubernetes. I told you so. And it's also featured this very cute octopus. But the idea behind Argo is that you can do a full CI/CD pipeline with every pod, and it's so flexible. It is quite a nice tool. I fully recommend looking into Argo for your Kubernetes-based projects. And since there are so many tools, so many options, you are going to often find yourself like entering a restaurant, opening a menu and seeing 20 pages, okay? And you're like, wow, I just wanted to have a meal and I'm not sure what fits, what I want to eat from this 20-page menu. And that's why you need to carefully evaluate all your prereqs, do some tests, and find which one is the one to rule them all for your case. It can be very exhaustive, but you don't want to run into some unsupported feature in the middle of your implementation. You don't want to find by your release date that the tool that you've chosen doesn't support something that's essential for your systems. So do your research, read about all the options available, and make sure that you chose wisely. So I know I didn't talk about AWS yet, and you probably know that I'm a huge fan of AWS. And that's because AWS is another entire animal. They don't offer a single CI/CD tool. It's more of a combination of tools, and each one does its own part of the CI/CD process. You can store your code on code commit. You create the pipeline with code pipeline. You build it with code build, and you deploy it with, yes, you guessed it, code deploy. Considering how AWS is usually very creative with product names, these are quite basic, right? I would have expected them to name like code explosion, code firework, I don't know, something more fancy. But anyway, it makes sense. Code commit, code pipeline, code build and deploy. The idea is that you are only going to use what you need for your project, and that is pretty neat. Coming back to the restaurant analogy, imagine that you go to a restaurant and you want dessert, but the restaurant only serves a 5-course prefix menu that costs $1,000 with wine pairings. You don't want that. You only wanted a dessert, but since you are there, you now have to take the full meal to eat just a dessert. Amazon is a place where you can pick exactly what you need and enjoy exactly what you need. It allows more flexibility for companies that don't feel ready to do the full CI/CD pipeline yet. They can start with a very smaller solution and slowly growing into something bigger, something more ambitious as the culture in the company changes. I think that is quite nice. And I think AWS is very smart and they know what they're doing. And we talked about control. And I find that a lot of the resistance that I see towards CI/CD comes from the fear of losing control. People want to know what is happening to the code at every point in time. People want to enforce manual steps to make sure what they think is right. People want to enforce manual approval. Repeat after me. Manual steps reduce control. They give you a false sense of control. You want broader control. You want control over the big picture. You want control over the automated system. Instead of micromanaging what every single human is doing, you manage this automated system and what the humans do to create the system. Instead of asking for those TPS reports every day and insisting that the TPS reports get delivered by someone to your desk every day, you have engineers create a system that will auto-generate TPS reports as many times as you need. And when you need more efficient TPS reports, you can create some analytics tool that will get data from the TPS reports. Isn't that much better than asking people to deliver the TPS reports to your table? I think so. And tell me if you don't. Just try to avoid the manual steps because they are going to bring some problems into your system in the future. People introduce errors. The systems, they just repeat the errors that people introduce. We are sometimes afraid of automation. We are afraid of robots. I have seen this many times. I don't trust robots doing this job. Robots are going to take over. The great robopocalypse is coming. That is nonsense. Automation exists to help you, to help me, to help everyone. Robots are very good at reliably doing repetitive tasks and following commands, while humans are good at creating things and giving orders. So if we put those two things together, we have a system that has been created by a human, and the human tells the system what to do, and the system just repeats the orders over and over again. That's how things are supposed to work. We're in this together as a team, us and the machines. We do what we do best. We create the code, the automation pipeline, the testing framework, the monitoring setup. And the machines, the robots, they will run everything that we have set up. There's no reason to fear the robots because the robots, they don't have something that they've chosen to do by themselves. They are not magical. They don't have an intention yet. They will just do the things that you tell them to do. They will just repeat your own steps. If something can fail under an automated setup, 100% chance it will fail under a non-automated setup as well. Humans are the ones who introduce errors, and machines will just repeat the errors that humans introduce. And talking about errors and bugs, they are unavoidable. We are here with people who work with security, and we know that there is no 100% secure system. There is no 100% error-free, bug-free system. So errors are unavoidable. Bugs are unavoidable. What you have to do is to catch them early. You have to catch them as soon as you can and deal with them as soon as you can. When you try to pack your code into a big chunk, you are less likely to see the errors happening, and you're just pretending that you have less errors than you're seeing. I think the big question is actually, what if a terrible bug automatically makes it to prod? Well, the answer that people don't like to hear is that, well, it's going to happen to absolutely everyone, to me, to you, to everyone here who is watching. It happens. But if you have a framework of automated tests, monitoring tools constantly running on your pipeline, you're way more likely to catch that bug before it makes to prod than in any other situation. There's no way of questioning that. Okay. Imagine that. Company A packages every single change of code in a big chunk. And then they send that big chunk of files to the QA team, like a bunch of people. And the QA team has to look into the code and check to see if they find errors on the code. And after the QA team approves, they just allow that code to go into production. Okay, that is company A. Company B, on the other side, they have all automated processes. So when they add a new line to the code, they just commit the code to the repository, and the repository has automated tests that run on every single piece of code, and those tests, they have been written by the QA team. So the tests, they automatically run on everything all the time. Every code that is pushed to the repo is test, again, a suite of tests that has been created by the QA team. And if the piece of code is approved, it eventually makes into prod. And when that makes into prod, you have a robust monitoring system that will make sure that no changes have been detected on memory use, CPU use, disk use, to allow for your system to stay up and to catch any kind of errors or very early in the processes in case you need to do a rollback after an error makes to prod, if that happens. So those two scenarios, they have been, of course, simplified for the situation where we are right now, but it's kind of obvious that in the case of Company B, they are way more likely to catch bugs earlier than later. And if something happens, their website is probably going to stay online instead of offline in case something fails because of the automation of the processes. This also means that what we are looking for here is a change in the culture of the company. It's not about installing software. It's not about telling people that they should let their code go automatically into prod, okay? It means a cultural change. One does not simply CI/CD. You don't install a software and say, let's do this by the end of the summer, okay? The whole business needs education and training on why the old practices were not working so well and why there is something out there that can be better for us. The cultural change that leads the many pieces of the puzzle involved in implementing CI/CD comes from leadership. If you can lead your team towards some changes, you have to be open. You have to say, hey, I found this book, and it says here that there are some practices that might be interesting for us. The teams have to work together. Silos don't work with CI/CD. You have to lead by example. You have to offer training. You have to offer education. You have to make everyone who is inside the company, everyone who is a part of the production of the development process, want to have a continuous integration, continuous delivery pipeline. You don't simply do it. You make people crave that system to the point that they will ask for that to happen. And when the teams ask for that to happen, that implementation will happen. Magic happens. If you lead by example, if we embrace the change, the teams will change, the culture will change, everything will change, and we'll be in a place where the company will be ready for the next step, which will be picking up the tools, creating the code, creating the tests, creating the monitoring, and that is a big deal. That is not a simple solution. Which brings us to, I am convinced, I want it now. Yeah, people want things right now, but like I said, not so fast. Take a deep breath, inhale, exhale. It doesn't happen overnight, okay? Read a lot. I cannot emphasize that enough. Read a lot of things, research, talk to people, but most importantly, listen to people. You're going to run into people who are going to tell you, I'm not so sure about this. And you have to take the concerns of these people very seriously. Don't ignore them. You ask them, so what are you not so sure about? What are your concerns? And then you take notes and you research, you read. I said about reading. Read more and address the concerns of your team, of your coworkers after you do the research. And then you come back to them. Hey, you mentioned that you were afraid of CI/CD, that you thought it wasn't a good idea because of A, B, and C. I thought about that, and I found solutions X, Y, Z. What do you think? Do you think that might work for us? Do you think that that is good? What happens a lot of the times is that people are afraid of losing their jobs to automation. Okay, people are really scared of that. So if we can explain to people that CI/CD is something that includes them, is not or solution, is an and solution. You add that to their lives and it actually makes their work better. They will, instead of writing a line of code every day that address the change and attending change management meetings, they are going to create tests. They are going to work with the QA team to write tests that are meaningful. They are going to have to watch monitoring tools. It's a change in the mindset. When they learn about that, they will eventually want that. And again, this is one of the reasons why I'm not doing any kind of demo and I'm not showing some code that runs on my machine, because there is no one size fits all solution of CI/CD for you or for me. You're going to find that you are going to look at many demos, many lines of code, and none of them solves your problem. They might solve a part of your problem here, a part of your problem there, but they are absolutely not the solution you are looking for, because each company is unique, each team is unique. You need to adapt what you see to the current situation that you have. The most important advice I have to you is that the biggest challenge in implementing CI/CD is never the technical part. It's the people around you. It's the teams that you work with. Once you have the teams working together, once you have the people in the right mindset, in the right place, the change is almost organic, and you proceed to the software part. Do not ever go to the technical part before the cultural change has been done. Otherwise, you are just asking for lots and lots of problems in the pipeline that doesn't fix anything for you. Which brings us to the main question. It's not a pipeline, okay? That is a deception. CI/CD is the result of biggest change. And I'm going to borrow Kelsey Hightower's favorite word of the week, which is transformation. I hope he's watching this and he sees me making fun of him. So for the cultural changes that will make people ask for a more integrated and automated delivery process, do not rush the implementation. Just do as necessary. Maybe your team is not ready for a full solution right now, but in the future they will need it. And that is totally fine. No team, no process is static. Things are always changing. Things are always evolving. Think of yourself as a kid, of the things that you like to eat as a kid. I was quite the picky eater, so I would only like to eat things like ice cream, French fries, boring food. And today, I'm quite the adventurous eater. I like to eat very gourmet, molecular gastronomy, cuisine kind of thing. I eat pretty much everything. But that didn't happen overnight. 5-year-old me would be horrified at the things that 40-year-old me eats today, right? And that only happens because you start eating different things, you start trying different things, and you learn about other flavors, other ideas, other cultures, and you get curious. And you can see that those things, they might be good. And the first time you try, you were like, that is weird, but maybe I should try it again. And then you try it again and you're like, I quite like this. And then you go a little bit further and you go a little bit further. And imagine that like some companies, they are new. They are still a child, which will reject most foods. Some companies, they're more like a young teen that is getting more adventurous and getting interested in trying different restaurants and going to places that are not chain restaurants. And other companies, they are on the latest step. They are totally into the modern, fancy, gourmet, molecular cuisine kind of thing. And they're, let's embrace this. Let's go full Monty. I want everything. It's just a matter of time, and cultural change that comes from within, comes from ideas that happen on your team. With the people you work with. Don't forget that you work with people, and those people have misconceptions, they have preconceptions, and you don't need to tell them that they are wrong. You just have to understand where these ideas are coming from, and by allowing the ideas to change, welcoming new ideas, CI/CD will happen. Because it's a mindset. It's not simply a pipeline. So this is it. I hope this made more sense now that I try to clarify how I am so passionate about making change into workplaces and bringing new ideas, and why this changes everything. How continuous integration is such a big deal and is so amazing. Merci beaucoup with my terrible French. I'm Renata. You can find me at renata.org. Thank you for joining, and I'll be addressing questions on the next few minutes. Thank you.
Yay!
Cool.
I
you.
love your slides. I love them.
you.
They're so beautiful.
Thank you.
People, person after person, commented how great they were, and they're like, that art school missed out on her. So we have questions in the chat for you.
Yeah, can I ask a quick question just that I've been thinking about? So I really like the whole, like, it's a cultural mindset, not a tool, not a thing you buy, right? Totally agree. Do you feel like there's just in the way that we're developing software, like it sounds like you've done a lot of Kubernetes work, Like we're just at a point right now where unless you are doing this, you are going to get killed in the software development environment. Like there's so much complexity, and it feels like CI/CD is just a necessary way to incrementally move to the next step. And if we don't have a tool, like I don't know how you manage a large scale Kubernetes deployment without a tool or without a CI/CD process. Just feels like we get crazy so quickly.
That is, I think about that often. You know what? Because things got so complex in the beginning. In the beginning, things were much easier, much straightforward. But these days, it's so complex that it gets very difficult if you don't implement a full CI/CD solution. But I have seen things, okay, and there are people who have like full Kubernetes clusters without any sort of CI/CD.
Do they cry all day, every day?
Not going to answer that question. Okay, I have seen many things.
Yeah.
But
no,
yeah.
Even just JavaScript stuff. Like, if you're dealing with like a certain type of JavaScript framework app, you can't just go into the code and see what's going on. Like the build process builds the things that you need to see what's going on. So sometimes it's very different than just going into like a static file and like observing with your eyeballs what the issues were. I don't know. I just was interested in how you would add.
Yeah. And that brings us to, are people using these tools because they need these tools or just because someone decided to install because they heard it's cool? Yeah,
right.
And which is something that I talk a lot about. Yeah, do you really need this, or are you just doing it because your friend said it is the latest hype? So yeah, I see many things around. Yeah, and as to answer your question, it is very hard to manage some infrastructures without a full CI/CD pipeline.
Yeah.
Just want to bring in that comment by Fabio. I don't know the context, but he says about what Nikki said. It's the same in the software dev world, especially with JavaScript.
Sorry. Let me just bring you some context. Fabio's my husband, okay? And he has issues with JavaScript. It's like everything.
I think everyone has issues with JavaScript.
That's hilarious. He's like,
and his avatar is our cat, Daniel.
That's a cute cat.
Yeah.
I have questions from people in the chat who aren't your husband.
What?
I have questions from people who are not Fabio.
Okay.
So this is from Adrian. Renata, in your opinion, is it possible to do CI with Git branches, or are you talking CI from a systems perspective?
It is totally possible to do CI with Git branches. Yes. Yeah. Absolutely. I don't see a problem with that. And there is also CI from a systems perspective. But yeah, it is possible to do CI with Git branches. And it's pretty much what I think is like the best way. Yeah.
Cool. More questions. Do you recommend any specific tools over others? For instance, do you recommend Circle CI or do you recommend other tools?
I think it's very difficult to recommend a tool. It depends on what you, like I said, it depends on what you have. You have to see what are the prereqs of your company, of the business, of the product that you are releasing. Okay, I cannot say, I think Circle CI is cool, and then you're going to look at Circle CI's features and it doesn't support something that you needed to do. Or I can say, maybe you should use Cold Pipeline, and then it doesn't serve to a purpose that you need, or your teams don't like the interface of Cold Pipeline. So it is very difficult to recommend a tool if I don't know what you're going to do with it. Okay.
Yeah, I totally agree. So someone asked a follow-up question about the previous one. So we were talking about Git branches and if you could use it for CI. So they're saying, how can it be called continuous integration if you're not integrating continuously? But I would imagine you would be using GitHub Actions to continuously integrate.
Yes.
If you're using GitHub. that you would like make some
GitHub Actions to
do
continuously
that.
integrate everything. I've been doing that. I do that personally on my own projects, and I have done that for clients as well. And I think it's awesome. Yeah.
Yeah, I like it a lot too. Okay, more questions from the chat. Do you draw those awesome slides on your tablet?
I drew them like on watercolor paper using pens, and then I scanned them. Yeah.
Nice. I actually had someone give me a presentation, like a consultant, and she had physically drawn all the slides, and then she went in Zoom and put them like this for each one.
I thought about doing that.
Oh my God.
Doing them sound like the best solution for today. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so someone is saying, what about GitOps? Do you recommend it or not? And I know you just said that you can't, like you need to know business requirements to recommend one tool or another. But what about for the other people that don't know what GitOps is? Like,
Yeah, define that. That would be nice.
So GitOps would be like the integration of the whole Git branches into a DevOps solution. It is like the more modern take of CI/CD into DevOps, and I like it because I do these things and I like these things. But like I said, I cannot recommend a solution because sometimes the company is not ready for this. So right now, my client is a very traditional business, and they are absolutely not ready for this. So I cannot recommend GitOps as a proposed solution for my client. It doesn't make any sense for them. Okay, it's not because I'm mean, it's just because it doesn't work for them. So yeah.
Someone else is joking and they're saying monorepo plus GitOps and then watch the world burn.
Indeed.
Awesome. Also, I turned my volume up. I don't know if that's better, but it was too quiet because it was broken before and I didn't want to sound like a robot anymore.
No, your sound is great now. Yeah.
Yeah, we unplugged everything and plugged in new stuff. But I loved that presentation. I also love how your personality comes through when you present and like you're just like the frustrations that you've clearly felt at work. And you're just like, come on, guys, let's do this. I really enjoyed that.
I am very passionate about the things I do. Okay, I do it. I wouldn't be working in this if I didn't like it. And I have said this before. I don't have like an intermediate mode of operating anything. I either don't care about it or I love it very much. So
I feel you. I feel the same way. 100%.
I'm really, really into this. So trust me, if I propose something to you, it's because I put a lot of thought and love and passion and dedication into that. And that's how, and I see some of the names here. I see that there are some co-workers of mine here. So
Yay!
hello, Becher. Yeah.
That's nice.
Thank you for joining. This was great. Yeah.
Thank you for being on our show.
One more question. I'm sorry, just one more question. Just because there's an enormous amount of tooling in this space, right? How do you, in your head, kind of like go through what a new tool is? Like, how do you just do like a quick 2-minute analysis on how you feel about a tool? Do you have any like tips there? Because there's just so much tooling, and I feel like I'm constantly thinking like, what does this tool do? Oh, I kind of get it. It does this. Do you have any?
Oh, sorry, please.
No, I need help here. That's why I'm asking you.
Yeah. So what I usually do is that they're always releasing new tools, right? And probably as we speak, they just released something new from a new vendor. Yeah. So what I try to do is whenever I find a new tool, I test it. Okay. I try to run like a basic hello world basic solution just to get an idea of what it does. And I look at the specs, at the features, what it does, what it doesn't. And I have a very a large Twitter feed where I follow lots of tools to see what they are adding in terms of features, in terms of what they have found in terms of problems, so I can try to keep up to date with whatever exists out there. And that's how I try to keep my own personal database updated with what's available today. Okay. And that gives me a good start when a client tells me that they want CI/CD. The next step, when someone tells me I want CI/CD, is trying to find out what exactly do they mean by that, because that's usually a very tricky question. Like, I want CI/CD, but okay, what is that? And then you go and try to find which one of those like 100,000 tools is exactly what works for them, you know?
Yeah. Like problem first type stuff. Yeah, no, that's good. Makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah.
Tanya has a question, but she's muted. She's coming.
Oops, I pressed the mute button. Okay, there's another question in the chat. So this is from Johan. Automated security testing can be quite long. Do you have any hints for us or tips to include them in a pipeline successfully?
Yeah, I agree with Johan that security testing is very tricky, and it's very hard to get them included in a pipeline very successfully because of the time it takes. Again, I'm sorry to say that again, but it really depends on what you're testing, where you're testing, and the whole infrastructure that you have to test. I would have to write another talk to dive a little bit deeper into this question, because it's not a simple question that you asked, and I think you know that.
Yeah.
So
I feel like there's some things you can do. Like, you could have, instead of, like, there's the release pipeline, but like you can actually make another pipeline that just goes off into nowhere, and you could run the really long test there, like once a week, like with GitHub Actions, for instance, have it run every Friday or only on a major release. And then you could just have, for instance, like, let's say you want to do SAST or secret scanning or something, just in your release pipeline, just have it scan only for the delta. So just the code that got changed, or the new code that's being checked in. Like, that could be one way that you could make it.
Yeah, that absolutely is one way. That is a possibility. Yeah, but
I feel like, how can you make SAST just run really fast? It's like, well, I'm not a magician. Yeah, I've had people say, like, well, can't we just make it run a lot faster? I'm like, your app has 1 million
Quantum
lines of code. I'll see you next week.
Yeah.
Like, we're amazing. We're not magical.
I like Adrian. He agrees with me that Kubernetes is overhyped, and people do not take into account the complexity and cost that comes with it. Yeah, thanks you, Adrian.
Yeah, I agree completely. That's a whole other conversation, though.
It's a whole other conversation.
Yeah.
Well, I'll put that in the description, because that was the talk we started with. That's the talk you gave at DevOps Toronto, where you were talking about Kubernetes being overhyped. I'll link that. You should watch it, and it's not long. It's 5 minutes. It was a lightning.
Yeah, it's a 5-minute talk. I ended up giving the talk again at DevOps Days Columbus last year, and then again at DevOps Days Oslo as well. So people seem to agree a lot with that, or at least they want to hear more about it.
There's one more question. So a lot of people are just agreeing with you, and they're like, yeah, she's awesome. But so someone say, or maybe it's a comment. So in our DevOps department, we have 3 branches: dev, staging, and prod, with a multi-pipeline concept. And it made things so complicated, especially monitoring. Any advice to improve that? Well, you could stop doing that.
So from my understanding, you have like a pipeline for each one of the branches.
Yeah, instead of having like one that takes you,
that goes takes. Yeah, I think like ideally you would have one the pipeline that takes you to each other stage. That is that is usually a good way of looking at it. Yeah. Maybe you should look into changing into that. Instead of having 3 different pipelines, have one major pipeline and try to move code from one into the other. Try to see if that works for you.
Yeah, I think that seems like a good idea for sure. Less complexity if possible.
Yes. Try, keep it simple, right?
Yes. Oh, and people are asking for a link to your talk, and Nancy magically made it appear out of nowhere in the chat.
I had it handy.
She's very good at that. Just like magically all the links arrive and everything just works perfectly every time Nancy's around.
Well, I watched it, but just before we went on to put me in the mood. Remember, Renata's energy. It's a really good talk.
Yeah, I do have a lot of energy.
Good stuff. Well, if there's anything else, is there anything else in the chat, Tanya or Nicole?
I feel like
No, I
everyone's
think
just
we're
really happy, and they thought Renata's talk was awesome, and I agree.
Yes.
Thank you.
Well, people are from everywhere, right? Like Tunisia, France, UK,
London, yeah,
amazing.
Ottawa, all the way from
Ottawa,
Canada.
from Ottawa. These strange people from Ottawa, yeah.
Represent. That's awesome.
I'm sorry.
No, that's great. No, thank you for coming live. We really appreciate it. We love having questions during the show and being able to interact with you. That makes it a lot of fun. Thank you, Renata, for preparing. I thank you and all the other guests who come. I always try to mention it. It's a lot. It's not just a simple conversation. People come prepared. They have slides. They put work into it. So we really respect that and really appreciate that. Thank you so much for that. Thank you for the time you took to bring this conversation to us. And so this will be on our YouTube channel. If you missed it, if you came in late, it'll be available on our YouTube channel. We'll have anything we discussed. If we have any links that you'd like, they'll probably be in the description below. And we won't have a show next week, but we have one on security operation with Kate Sweet in August. I think it's the 30th of August. So please follow us on social media. We're pretty much everywhere: Twitter, LinkedIn, sometimes Instagram, whenever we can keep up. And yes, follow us there and you can find out what we have next. So that's all I have. Any final words? That's it.
Someone asked me how to deal with front-end developers. I want to avoid the obvious answer that I'm married to one, but the correct answer here is that you talk to them, okay? You talk to everyone in your team, and the whole idea is that you avoid silos. You cannot make your team of front-end developers those people that you are afraid of talking to. You have to talk to them, and you have to understand what are they doing, and try to bring their processes as a part of your pipeline idea or your pipeline concept. And you have to make everyone talk to each other. That is the advice that I have to you. Okay.
That's awesome. Those are great.
You can find me on Twitter. That I think Nancy is going to share my Twitter account.
Yeah, absolutely. Anything you would be looking for, Tanya, add them to the chat, the live chat. But if you're watching later on, we'll make sure to add them in the comments in the description of the show.
Yeah,
thank you, Nicole. Thank you, Tanya. Thank you,
guys.
Renata. And we'll see you in a couple weeks. And you also.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you so much for being on the show.